There's some people walking this way. Hi guys. Oh, you're back.
Staff was looking for him, I guess. He was probably in the school bar.
Yes.
Does that sound familiar?
Well, that's where he was going.
No, I know. I'm just saying he was also late for the morning panel.
Yeah, that's because someone partied too hard. Let's see, what's
But that's the whole point of a furry convention, isn't it?
you can party an acceptable amount, which is a lot and is not too hard. Let's be honest, a con chair.
It sounds terrible.
I'm just watching all the furries go by.
I know.
All right, let's see. What is a party hard? Who here this is their first con? Anyone?
Fur?
First fur con.
Oh, that'd be mine actually.
Yeah.
Welcome. For the rest of you, who here has been to one of our MST3K charity panels, currently now affectionately called Mistake?
Clock tower.
Okay. Oh my God.
That was my first
Okay.
exposure.
So for the rest of you, basically what you do, Mystery Science Theater 3000, the shtick of their show is they would go watch bad movies and crack jokes at them. We originally set out to do that with a bunch of panelists, but then it turned out the audience was better at shouting out things and cracking jokes than it was us as panelists. And then someone drunkenly said, you know, when something happened on screen, drink! And so it started turning into a drinking game. And instead of just, you know, making it kill yourselves with alcohol poisoning, drinking game, we turned it into a charity thing. You can throw money in, and you can make a drinking room. All this money goes to charity, and then all of us on the panelists, we drink and get messed up, and we hurt our livers for everyone. At Motor City FurCon earlier this year, their theme was 90s tunes. T-O-O-N-S, not T-U-N-E-S. So, for the movie, oh my gosh, is that a ferret? I'm talking about a mistake that you weren't at.
Oh, I thought you meant.
Was that my con?
No. I'm literally talking about the panel Mistake.
Oh, that's a great panel.
So it's 90s tunes, we figure out the best thing to watch. Space Jam. What?
Yeah, I wasn't
It's
at
bad, it's bad. And the rules that people were coming up with. Drink whenever someone gains or loses a power. Guess what? You're fine most of that movie until in the span of about 10 seconds, it happens 12 times. So we're going through and doing this. I'm making a poor choice. My drink is literally a bottle of scotch and I'm drinking from the bottle. You can imagine the hangover I have the next day. In any case, we're going through and at some point someone taps me on the shoulder and I'm in this, mind you, and it's dark and I can't see, so I flail around and I accidentally knock someone's drink down. Party foul.
Alkaline has weird.
Turns out, someone's like, yeah, someone got sick. I'm like, oh, great, let's go get cleanup. Like, where'd they go? And in the span of the person seeing this and reporting it, to us managing to get some lights and looking for it, the stealth puker had not only made it completely outside, had disappeared, and most of it was wiped up.
What?
I gotta be honest with you, this is towards the end of the night, we made a bunch of money. That scotch, I don't know how much time passed between me being told and getting lights on.
What?
This was not in our con.
Oh, we're good. We're fine. This is awesome. What a great story.
I end up making a report to security, like, hey, someone lost it at this panel where they technically weren't supposed to be drinking, but did anyway. We're going through all of this. We cannot find the person. We cannot find the person who handled them and got them out and probably did the cleanup. Didn't hear about it all weekend. Eventually, there's a convention report that security teams do. They turn into the con at the end of everything that happened. And there's one line in there going, something Dragor said about a stealth puker? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
You made it into the book.
That's not the first time. I was reported in that book the first time I started wearing these.
I see why. Everyone sees why.
You know what? I should just go get Rakesh and put googly eyes on it at this point.
It was the greatest morning I've ever had. I woke up and he had googly eyes on it, and my eyes went there, and he goes, I knew you'd look up, I can't stop looking.
They were different size eyes too.
Wait, what's the report? It was the book about you.
It was that line. So they actually put in their security report something about Dragor saying something about a stealth puker. That's all they heard about. They could not find the person. They tried tracking him down.
That sounds like a responsible drinker.
Oh, what was the other thing that report in the book?
What's the first report of the book? You know, what were they talking about?
The first report in the book was, it was the second con I had this at. The first con I wore this at, Dorsai wasn't working. What would it have been after that?
You mean the
It probably
convention?
would have been FCN, maybe?
It was totally FCN. Are you talking about when the report came in?
About me,
Yeah,
yes.
that's FCN.
So FCN, what was it, Furry Connection North?
Yes.
I remembered that, hooray!
You
So
were
this
drunk.
is like the second time I'm out in the brown spiky imp suit. So I'm doing that. I think it was their 80s themed one. So I vaguely almost fit in because computers, and I was going, now they were not an 18 plus con at that point yet.
Oh, right.
And so there's a pool and there's families and kids and no one really had seen this stupid crap that I do yet. And so what happened, no one approached me. When I found out, like 2 years later when I go to volunteer with them, I go to volunteer with security, there's the, by the way, do you know you've been in our log before?
You've been inside.
So it first started out with one of the Dorsai, who was not so great on eyesight, reported a very brown naked man running around. The addendum, the edit app, it was just that, and then it was a series of edits. Edit, there are spikes. Edit, no, not that. Edit, that might be of concern though. Edit, is this okay? Edit, Conchair thinks it's hot, it's okay.
The Dorsai's logbook is the thing of legend. I'm in it.
Yes, you are.
That was a great convention.
At our own.
Yeah. I am the director of finance at Indy Furcock. So one night, it was a slower night like this one. Probably one of my favorite things to happen when I can actually interact on a more personal level with all the wonderful fursuiters and furries that are at a convention. So I took a seat in the hallway, and people started giving me money to continue a story. So I legitimately just started making up a new fairy tale. Fairy tale. I am really drunk. Fairy tale. And they paid me to keep going. So the rule was, as long as any paper bill went into the hat, I had to continue for at least 2 more minutes. So they would throw in money and touch my cell phone to keep the story going. Well, I noticed out of the corner of my eye 2 police officers in the convention center kind of looking over at me and didn't think about it. Until I found out the next day that those 2 officers went into convention security and said, "Are you aware that you have a man panhandling in your lobby?" And Rennie, the head of the Dorsai, who was on duty at that time, stood up and was like, "Oh, you have somebody panhandling? Okay, take me over to him. What does he look like?" And as he was walking in the door, he was like, "He's a really large guy with a black jacket and top hat." And Rennie just steps and says, "That's our director of finance." And said to the man, "Is he going to get arrested for being drunk in public?" And the cop, a gentleman of law enforcement, goes, "Not after seeing that reaction." That was a fun con. I think I was legitimately drunk for like 20 hours in that con.
Were you arrested?
I've been arrested, shut up. I did things, but that's not a convention horror story, so we're not going to tell that.
Did they actually say, like, we actually wait, like, on your camera, they actually listen?
I've also been play arrested, yes. They went too far, it got sexy.
That's a drop down in FA.
There's definitely a drop down in FA for that. Dragor!
What?
It's been 2 years. We're totally allowed to tell it. Would you like to tell them about another MST3K? Where a young woman, at the prime of her life, she didn't know me, but she showed up to the convention on the behest of somebody else. She is an internet personality. Probably most people have not heard of her, but there's a chance. We're not going to use names. Didn't like the fact that she was not getting the recognition because she is a drinker. One of her YouTube channels involves her sitting there and drinking a lot. And she had a line that she said to many people throughout the con. It's like, yeah, I'm the best person here at holding my booze. A lot of people responded with, well, I mean, after alkali. Well, I've never claimed to be able to hold my booze. I just drink. I drink for fun. I drink when I feel like it. I stop drinking when I don't. I don't drink for competition. She decided that it was now a competition. In fact, she joined us at the MST3K panel and told a bunch of people, none of which were the people running the convention, that she was going to match me shot for shot with whatever I was drinking. Now I am, and don't ever think it is more than this. I am 6'8", I am very fat. I can drink more than the average person because of those two things. Before I perform, I am in my room chugging water to be able to go just a little bit more. It is a show. It is an act. I enjoy drinking, but I am not hurting myself. Please do not try to challenge me to a drinking competition and not tell me! Because during MST3K, she found out that I was drinking straight tequila. I love Cabo Wabo. It is my favorite drink. I find it to be a booze that is quite refreshing. She poured herself, while my back was turned, a red Solo cup of tequila. Straight tequila. And Dragor, would you like to continue the story from the halfway point of Dungeons and Dragons, the movie? And by the way, if you ever want to beat us in MST3K, it is a game. There can be a winner, audience or panel. The panel won on this one. We had to silently shut down the panel. It is our biggest loss yet. Half an hour into the movie, we had to kill the whole panel because of this person. And it's been 2 years, so we can talk about it.
So part of the reason there was a lot of drinking was our rules master let something go in because someone donated a lot of money.
It was a $100 bill.
It was a $100 bill. Drink whenever there's a torch.
Guys, you don't realize how many torches there were back then.
I wasn't in the room when that one happened. I was outside dealing with something else when all of a sudden I hear a packed room in a basement of our con, and I just hear audiences shouting, "Torch! Torch!" And it would be, "Torch, no!
Torch.
And it just kept going until eventually it's called. And so there's alkali, and board of directors at the time, John was there, and it was the three of us, and I look in.
And Pendez.
No, Pandez was checked out helping inside.
Oh, you're not telling me that part of the story? Okay, good move.
There were three of us, and she couldn't, she was so drunk she couldn't sit in the chair.
She missed it.
And so we're sitting there going, I thought I was off duty. I'd partied it up. He was one of the panelists. John was one of the panelists. And we're all sitting there going, short straw, who's the most sober to deal with this?
I drew a sword. Straw, I'm good, right? Go home. Okay.
I pulled the short straw. Some of her friends are there and are helping her get to her feet and get out. We mosey along, and it's a struggle to keep, like, we have a person on either side, and, you know, there's gravity fluctuations. She's just trying to slam into a wall or something. We get to the stairs to get out of the basement. And she looks at him, and her people hauling her look at him, and go, So I have to go upstairs. I'm not wearing this, but I am wearing a Spider-Man union suit set of pajamas. I have to go to the night manager, who is a retired cop, and explain to him that we have someone who needs to get back to their room, but can't take the stairs. And he's like, oh, is it a wheelchair thing? And I laugh, and I'm like, more like an alcohol thing. And he just gets this grin, and he silently comes with, he wants to see.
Everyone wanted to see this one.
She's fighting. She thought going into that service elevator was like some crazy back of house furnace oven. She started screaming, going, "No, don't burn me!" This guy is saying nothing. I can't get anything. I'm like, we're getting kicked out. We're not getting asked back. We're fucked. We're fucked.
No,
We're
I
fucked.
totally thought we ruined the guy. I thought this was the end of my convention, and I went out with tequila. The old gypsy woman said it would be.
We end up getting her back to her room after much struggle and trying to just shepherd people out. Please don't look at this. Please don't look at this. And then she screams, "I'm a popsicle!" Don't know why. We get her into the room, try and get her in the bed, and then gravity. She throws herself off the bed and onto the floor, laying on her back. Rule number one, if you guys don't know, if someone's really drunk, they can't fall asleep on their back. Not okay, guys. So then we try and help her back up, and then she's squirming and flailing. I don't know how to, like at the time I did not know how to properly fireman carry or anything. I knew people on the door side did. About as tall as him and about as big too.
Angel is as tall and as big as me.
So he comes in, and she doesn't even know what's going on. Like, security's in the room, and nothing. Fireman carry, back up on the bed, and she throws herself off, lays on her back. At this point, the hotel night manager is still there, and he's just looming and waiting. And I turn, and I say, "I think we have to make the call." And he looks to me, and he goes, "You can't say I think, you have to say it. I'm making the call. Please get the ambulance." Fast forward.
Hold on, I just would like to say, as a convention chairman, I have helped run so many conventions, and it was my pride and joy that my convention had not had an ambulance, a fire truck, or a police car call. They had shown up because we are holding an event, but we had never had to call for them until this. This was on Saturday of year two, because we were still doing the panel on Saturday, right?
No, this was Friday night.
Was this a
This
Friday?
was Friday,
Okay.
Saturday morning, like 3 in the morning.
Yeah. So I was super excited about that. Who showed up at my hotel?
We had police show up,
And
ambulance show up,
And
we had the fire EMTs show up.
all three! One person! He told me this in the morning. We had a drink. I drank so much that morning.
The EMTs get there first, they try and pick her up and get her in bed, and then she goes to throw herself off, and only because one person blocks her, she almost cracked her skull open on the corner of a big wooden table. It's at that point the EMTs escalate, and now the ambulance and police are getting here. So I'm waiting outside for it to happen. Police shows up, an officer comes in, clearly knows the night manager. I am still standing there as Spider-Man pajamas. This
You
guy,
were the soberest one.
I was. So this
I wear slacks, a pseudo-sports coat, a button-down shirt, and when I need to deal with the public, the top hat goes under the arm. This sober motherfucker is in Spider-Man pajamas dealing with cops, ambulance, fire truck. Great job!
You're the one that like subconsciously challenged her to a drinking contest.
No!
The cop's talking to the night manager, and they're going back and forth, and he starts like grilling him for what's going on, and the night manager then, full shit-eating grin, goes, "You can talk to this gentleman right here," and then the cop does a double take. And then I start speaking in complete sentences, and he does a double take again. He thought I was the problem.
I always think that, especially at your Halloween party.
It goes back. It goes back and forth, and she can't stay in bed. She's not cooperating. At this point, they call it. The ambulance now has to show up, and she has to be gurneyed away to get put on a drip to make sure everything's going to be fine. She won't consent to go.
No, she won't consent to speak. I think she was speaking in Draconic.
No, it was slurred speech, and she could answer her name here and there, but it was really disoriented. It was touch and go, until finally there's some yelling, and I notice that she is now out, laying on a gurney, outside of her hotel room. At this point, I very quickly, you staff, get people away. Oh my God, we do not need rumors right now. This is where it boils down to. The cop says, "You are either going to the emergency room or you are going to jail. Do you understand?" And there's, And then he says in a very surly voice, I said, do you understand? And she goes, no! And kicks him. And in the most remarkable show of restraint I have ever seen in my life, he goes, that's it, you're going to jail. And she's like, no! Like a temper tantrum 3-year-old getting dragged out of our hotel.
I have gotten bad before, don't get me wrong. This gentleman over here has seen me at my worst.
Never been that bad.
You should never get to a point where you think kicking an officer of the law is even an option. So that happened.
Hey, it took us 2 years to get the Holy Trinity.
Yeah, well, yeah, it took us
And we had nothing.
and then in the same night.
Whereas, you know, some other conventions, the Wednesday night before the con,
Oh, those were great.
you
We
weren't
have a
responsible
story
for it.
we have a story in 1 year and a few months. It is killer, but we all agreed, myself, Kage, and 3 other people involved, we cannot tell this one for until the 2 years are up. It is really
Wait,
bad.
1 year or 2?
This
This year was impressive.
That's the one I'm talking about.
Okay, 2
let's
years.
just put it this way. It involves somebody's tits ending up in Lost and Found. It's like my favorite, so I cannot wait for this one to come up.
So speaking of costume things, I worked MadicFest with Dorsai.
Fun.
So it's Music and Games Convention, 20,000 people. They call it Music Alcohol Games Convention because, yes.
I want to
So
go.
we get someone showing up, and it's this big, burly dude dressed as Batman in a very interesting way. He was sent to security because of an indecent costume. This Batman had the boots. He had a good, like, Michael Keaton era cowl. He had the cape. He had wristbands. And he had the most magnificent leather codpiece thong I've ever seen in my life. Still had the back covered properly. That's not why he was sent in. He was sent in because his nipples were showing. The hotel did not allow bare nipples to show. They were okay so long as he covered his nipples. He is not breaking character the entire time. He is doing the shitty Christian Bale Batman voice the entire time. I need to cover my nipples. We at Dorsai are laughing our ass off. We are calling out on radio, you've got to come to Security HQ now, bring cameras. This dude's doing poses with everything. He's goofing off and fucking a blast. And he's looking around and he finds something and he goes, can I use this? And it's duct tape. And one of the nice older ladies of Dorsai goes, well, you can, but if you remove it, you might lose more than you think. And he just goes, oh, I'm used to loss. My parents are dead. Rips the duct tape. Rips the duct tape. Am I good to go? We're dying laughing like, hey, we gotta get pictures of this. He duct taped his nipples.
Should put X's on.
It's very slippery. We had one of my all-time favorite Benny Hill moments at MFF, and I'm talking years ago. The late, great Takaza and myself were sitting in operations Sunday night of MFF. They have to understand something about people who run conventions, especially Takaza. This gentleman put his soul into making this con run. So by Sunday, it's like seeing a zombie trying to work. Like he's just moving slow and eating brains. He's trying his best, but he was done. All the preliminary stuff was packed up. MFF is coming to a close. But what's that MFF event? That event that MFF actually gets a ton of credit for being one of the cons to make it the unique thing that it is. The Dead Dog Dance. MFF was an early convention who did this late Sunday after closing ceremonies dance. And they do a very good job. Them and Anthrocon really nail it. One of the last things to ever get put away is the radios. you need the radios. Security needs the radios. And in operations, we have a little box. And that box can be changed to staff, emergency, and of course, security. Staff had turned in the radios for the night. There's no reason to use the emergency, so he changed it to door side, and we got the greatest Benny Hill experience we have ever had the fortune to listen to. Because somebody tried to sneak in to the MFF Dead Dog Dance to sell drugs. Oh. They got past security doing the badge check at the door. Security went over to door side, basically heads of security, and said, this person snuck in. They came in and witnessed the act. They saw from across the room, money exchanged hands. Now this does not mean that they sold drugs. This means that a transaction took place, it looked like. It's enough that they need to talk to this person. The person looked over and made eye contact and left. As they walked out of the room, they walked past a friend, they walked past another person, and like this, and pulled one of these. And the two of them went in different directions. And what started happening was a radio chase of epic proportions. As me and Takaza are sitting inside of operations, dying laughing, as security's getting around. I am in the top of the tower. I can see out in the parking lot. There is a man in a brown coat. Is he wearing a brown coat? He's not in the brown coat. I have the guy in the white coat. We're talking about the guy in the brown coat. None of them are wearing a brown coat. I have the guy in the brown coat. He is in custody. None of them are wearing a brown coat. Who has eyes? Who has eyes? Okay, I'm in the tower. Why are you in the tower? I was getting food. What did you have for dinner? There was... They had a chase throughout the hotel following these two people who were just scattering. Two people are everywhere. The problem turned out to be, because they saw them get in their car, they actually pulled an Italian job. They took off their overcoats as they were running away. So all the door side were looking for somebody in a flannel and in a, what do you call that, jungle warfare. Jungle warfare.
Fatigues.
Yeah, in a fatigue coat. They took them off as they were leaving, so all these radio calls are going out for looking for these coats that no one is wearing. And we just got to listen. And we sat there, and all of a sudden, we're sitting in the room, we're dying laughing, the door opens. Now the door side irregulars do not work MFF, but Rennie always helps them, the head of the door side irregulars. And the door to operations opens. And Rennie steps in, and the smell hits our face. And I peed a little, to be honest with you, I was drunk. And Takaza lost his mind as Rennie walked in with freshly popped microwave popcorn. And sat down with us going, this is getting good. I missed him so much. Just that kind. There's been some amazing things. The radios are always fun at conventions because we try. Like, we're really trying, but sometimes...
Sometimes you name your roving ops team
still
the wrong name.
I think it was fine. I have a team called the Fire Team. And apparently they didn't like when Fire Team to main event. Where? Okay, let's change the name. I liked the name Fire Team.
It wasn't even that. It's that if you're at opposite ends of the hotel or in the basement, things would break up and come through. So the only thing that came through was fire.
You're not wrong. I just choose to disagree with you. But we had Furriality had probably two of my all-time favorite. Furriality is ran by a gentleman named Tat. He owns Ringtail Cafe. They are a wonderful group with a lot of heart. And they are very good letting their staff have a lot of reign. So their staff is working throughout the convention center. And all of a sudden, this call comes over radio. This is programming. Did anyone put out the fire? This is Con Chairman. Do you mean the grill? Yep, we mean the grill. Please say the grill. It couldn't have been more than 2 hours later. This is charity. We need a refresh at the table outside of Dealer's Den. Does anyone know where the poppers are? This is Con Chairman. Do you mean those novelty popping discs that we are selling for $1? Yeah, that's what we mean. Please call them novelty popping discs. I love having a radio with that guy. I get into a lot of trouble. You do have to, FCC regulations. Most radios at a convention, you do need a license for because of the power behind them. And you can't swear on those. And I need to not have a radio because I really like the word fuck. It's an awesome word. It's great. I yell at him constantly.
I yell it back at
I
him.
get in trouble.
We go back and forth, and then someone else will just go, ahem, FCC.
You know,
And then one of us will start doing the fuck you FCC song.
well, here's the problem. They got me to stop with one thing. They showed me a printout from the FCC website of what an individual fine could cost, and I found out how much it costs if you swear on the radio. I stopped swearing all of a sudden. Jew is way more important than being dirty.
Wait, how much does it cost?
It's like $5,000 for swearing on an FCC licensed radio.
$5,000 a fuck.
I just give them 10 grand. Fuck both you fucks. They fuck everything. It's fuck. Oh my god, but fuck everything.
But fuck everything.
Can we get a time check? I have
Yes.
libation appreciation of
Where's
awards.
the 11?
Oh, okay, we still have 15 minutes. Oh boy.
What are you doing?
Who here, so you weren't there, they had me run First FurCon in this room actually. And I think that it was the most hands I've ever seen raised for their actual first FurCon. So let me ask you guys a question. Who here has never been to this panel before? Raise your hand. Who here has never heard these convention war stories?
Well, I watched the whole thing.
Yeah, we'll count that, we'll count that. All right. Oatmeal? This is a story that I have had the honor to tell on Anthrocon's main stage. It's a cacophony of retardation. Starring most half the board of Midwest Furfest and myself, because I'm an idiot. I run Con Suite at Midwest Furfest. Now, Con Suite at Midwest Furfest has a feature. It has a thing. This thing is a soda machine. Allow me to tell you the history of this machine. One day, MFF went out and said, you know what would save us a lot of money? If we could just buy the syrup for soda. We have access to a giant CO2 canister, and we can just pump the water through. Cheap soda. Let's buy a soda machine. They did. They found one on sale, second hand. We had a vision. We envisioned a soda machine this big, 6 spouts, Mountain Dew, more Mountain Dew,
Code Red.
vodka, who cares? 6 spouts. Those machines new run for thousands of dollars. They found a second-hand one from a closed-down burger shop with 16 spouts. They built a table for this thing, put it on wheels, and then said, hey, Elfline, this is your problem. And then I got sticky.
That is not the first nor last time you will ever say that.
Diabetes?
There was a gentleman who probably got diabetes. The machine is secondhand. So what would happen is, all of a sudden, the water would stop pumping through, but the machine doesn't have a sensor, it's old. So what it was doing was, soda, and then all of a sudden, pure fucking Mountain Dew. And I watched a young man. Now I'm going to give this guy credit. Most of the time I would tell the story, it would be a young boy. No, if you do this, you're a fucking man. This young man, definitely not of the age to drink, to give you an idea of how young he was, walked up to the machine, took a cup and put it underneath Code Red Mountain Dew. And I watched as syrup started pouring into his cup. I said, oh, son, give me 1 second, let me turn off the machine, I just have to do a quick reset and that'll be fixed. And he pulled this, still bleeding the soda, looked over at me, and kept filling his cup. I was like, I'm 6'8". You're 5'1". You got balls, motherfucker. He finished filling his drink, looked at me, and took a big old sip and walked away. Just like, I'm trying to file adoption papers for this guy. So it had been one of those days. We had a syrup packet explode behind the machine. So I was swimming, so I'm wearing my trunks now. Like, God, the pool. There's a swim up bar. I was wearing my slacks, a nice button-down shirt. I was covered in fursuit hair because I had a light layer of fucking sugar water all over me. And all the fursuit hair in the room was just like, I love you,
Okay, it's your little magnet.
yeah, exactly. You too. We had that incident. The CO2 cartridge in the middle of the night bursts on the hose only.
Ice rink.
And there was an ice rink, but for some reason somebody called down claiming that there was terrorist activity in Consway that I needed to get down there. Like the hose burst. Like, no, somebody cut it. You can see the clamp. It's still there and not attached to the machine. The hose burst. Looks like a cut to me. It is 4 in the morning and I hate you. So finally, we're in the back of house. Back of house where none of you get to see, where all the magic happens, where we cry. It's myself, the late great Takaza, and Woody. Woody being the director of finance, Takaza being basically human resources. And we're sitting back there. Now there was something going on at this MFF, and that thing was this. DuckTales. People were yelling the words DuckTales into the radio, and people would answer with woo. And there were arguments bursting out. Could you please stop using the radio for nonsense? There'd be a moment of silence, and the street would get on. Nonsense? You mean like DuckTales? This was going on the entire convention, not because it was funny, but because 4 or 5 people were losing their minds. Like, these radios are so important! And like, DuckTales from my childhood! Like, oh, we're having arguments, awesome. So finally, the dam burst. Myself, Takaza, and Woody are in the back room. We are sitting there, we are exhausted, I am sticky. Woody has just dealt with a major problem. Takaza has been on his feet for hours. We're finally having a break. And the radio nonsense is at its peak, and now we're joining in. We're like, all right, we need somebody over in Artist Alley for the dicks. No, there's no dicks in Artist Alley, that's in the adult section. Can we go to the adult section? For the dicks! And we are yelling random stuff on the radio because our 5 social justice warrior friends are there. We can't do this. This is totally against code. And the code is 1, 2, 3 DuckTales. And we're laughing so hard that my arm moves around. I went to steady myself on the counter, and I knocked over a bowl of instant oatmeal. I knocked it, went all over the ground. So I grabbed the radio. The oatmeal has been spilled.
Oh no.
Woody, director of finance,
Oh
went white. Takaza, my good friend, reached out to me, and as if he could rip out my heart, put his hand on my chest, trying to breathe. And I don't know what's going on as they are trying not to die laughing. And I'm confused. And all of a sudden, over the radio, this Data Hawk, one of the heads of security, this Data Hawk Alkaline, what is your current position? Where has the oatmeal been spilled? Like, are you moonlighting as a janitor? Alkaline, where has the oatmeal been spilled? Radio silence from this point on. And I look over like, how do I answer if there's radio silence? And I was about to say DuckTales. When Woody, gasping for breath, doubled over. Oatmeal is code for money. The oatmeal has been spilled. Oh, shit! I had just put out a call over the radio that I do charity. I constantly have money on my person to get it over to a charity. They know my voice. I just told everyone at the con that money had been spilled, and I'm making jokes through the radio. I'm sorry. It's actual oatmeal. This data hawk to Alkali, I will be retrieving your radio in 1 moment. I did not get an MFF radio for 2 years after that. It was awesome. That is the oatmeal story. Can I get a time check?
5 minutes.
5 minutes?
Flying turkey?
I'll give you a quick one. Flying turkey. Fur cons are not the worst cons by far. Actually, here's a really cool trivia question. If you know the answer, so shut up. If you go to most hotels, now I've been to multiple hotels negotiating contracts, and I always like to ask them, what's the worst convention that you guys have? 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5 have the same answer. Guys, who's the worst group to have at a hotel for a convention? What do you think? Juggalos? No, and one of my hotels would have had to deal with that, so no, they did not mention that.
Police.
What's up? Horror cons? No, they didn't really mention that.
Police.
Police? That is number 2. Every one of them has a bad police convention story, but that is not the worst group. But yes, they always have a police con story. What is it? What? Fraternity, I've heard. Guys?
Anime.
What do you think? No, it's not anime, actually.
Sci-fi?
The worst convention had 4 out of 5, a bridge tournament. Old woman at a hotel playing bridge. They're like, it is the worst. One hotel told us that the entirety of the bridge community came in. 30 people demanded to have a meeting with food and beverage service provider on the Monday after the convention saying they shouldn't have to pay for anything because the restaurant that was not part of the hotel ran out of rolls. It wasn't the president of the bridge community, it wasn't the board of directors, it wasn't the people. All 30 old women came to this meeting to tell them that they should not have to pay for the hotel because an unrelated restaurant ran out of dinner rolls. I am definitely going to play bridge when I get older.
You can start with Sheep's Head.
Oh, I like Sheep's Head. That's a good game. Do you have a closing story? You got one?
No,
I'm trying to think of a short one that we know.
that's the issue.
Yeah, the short ones are.
I mean, I'm short, and that's funny to people.
Don't I hold the record for having the longest badge name?
You had it for a while, but didn't Dinofuckosaurus add like 400 syllables to his? I think you had it for a long time though. Yeah.
This is a story I thought you were going to tell. The turkey at the Hyatt.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. That's where I was going with this. So there was an anime con at the Hyatt. Now, they have this beautiful building with an atrium that goes all the way to the top of the hotel. And you can leave your room and go to the balcony and see all the way down into the lobby. Now, this lobby has a bar with a glass ceiling type thing. It's basically just a ledge to stop people who threw like paper over the edge from hitting you sitting at the bar. And the floor is this cool plexiglass thing with the lights underneath it. We found out that these things are about this thick. That's how thick this plexiglass flooring is. And somebody on the 9th floor decided to be a scientist. Because there's an old question that we all need to know. Can turkeys fly? He had a frozen turkey. And, oh, yeah, that's right, the shot put. Anime convention threw a frozen turkey off the balcony down to the bar, shattered the glass ledge above the bar, and shattered spiderweb, one of the big tiles on the floor. And that story in itself should tell you what goes through the minds of a hotel when they have to deal with a convention coming in. But that's not my favorite part of the story. My favorite part is the bartender. Because I wasn't there, but Kage was. And he tells this story with so much pride because the bartender was making a Long Island iced tea for someone. And this is, he said, his reaction. Crash! Bang! This, he said he didn't miss a beat. He just kept pouring, kind of looked, no one was hurt, started shaking. Fuck! I'll tell you what, we'll do a bonus story, just because it's a smaller audience. Are there any minors in this room right now?
Coal or gold?
I hate
This
you.
is 18 plus, isn't it?
Is it? Oh, good. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to give you a bonus story. I don't tell this one very often because it's because you'll understand in a minute. There's a hotel that has a group coming. Now, we pay to make these happen. Depending on your hotel, depending on your contract, that decides what you pay for. This group that came in paid more money for this one feature than I paid for all of First Square. 5 figures just to make this happen. And that is on the basement level 3 of this hotel. Now, this hotel has an escalator down to the 3rd basement level. And after that, it splits off onto both sides. That area would be convention only and that no hotel staff would be needed down there except during designated hours for them to change out garbage. The understanding was that they would get this area, and when they gave it back, it would be clean and fine, and they would pay a weird, service charge for any damage that was done. They're like, it's not going to get damaged. This is their private time. This is their private area. We want no one down there. The hotel, for that insane amount of money, agreed. Well, certain things supersede everything, and of course one of those things is fire safety. And an alert went off in the office of the hotel saying that a sprinkler had a sensor tripped. Now they went down there was obviously no fire, they negated the call, everything was fine, but they need to check this out. So they sent building tech down. And I had a drink with building tech. Allow me to explain to you what he told me with a shaking hand. I went down the escalator. It's the journey I imagine will happen the day I die and go to hell. I looked to the right, and standing there was a 400-pound man in a diaper. And he looked at me and said, "Baby wants a bottle." I walked down the hallway where the lights have been covered in plastic. The hallway itself has been covered in an opaque, thick plastic sheet. And I go to the 3rd door on the left. And at this point, he finished his drink. And in that room, he saw a gentleman against the wall. By the way, the room was Dexter style, wall to wall, no gaps, covered in plastic. And somebody else with a kiddie pool full of green slime in a bucket just throwing it at him. And this guy walked into the room and saw this. So is this the room with the problem with the smoke alarm? And the two of them looked, "We're busy!" And he backed out of the room. He called the hotel, like, I need to know what room I'm supposed to be going into. The room you mentioned has an event going on. The woman on the other side, I said, "What's going on down there?" And he said, "Did you ever see You Can't Do That on Television from Nickelodeon?"
I don't
She did not, and he wouldn't explain. So we went over to the proper room, and this is why, when I asked you that question earlier, an anime con, a fetish con did not come up. We know what we're about, we know what we're doing. We don't do fetishes lightly. He left the murder hallway, and the slime room, and the guard baby, and walked into this, it's a guard baby, and walked into this room where they knew they were going to have a mundane walking into. And he walked into a perfectly clean room with nothing weird whatsoever in it. All the plastic was gone, folded in the corner, some of it in a garbage bag, and a note, a stick-it note, with which one they think was malfunctioning. And their director of basement activities came in. And I do apologize. We hit it when we were putting up the tarps. I'm so sorry. Is there anything to do? It's like, no, don't worry about it. Are you guys not using this room? And without missing a beat, the guys go, no, this is the scat room. We just cleaned it up for you. And I loved him for telling me that story, because as I'm laughing, he goes, I'm glad you got that, because I didn't know what that meant till I got to Google. The moral of that story is, and something that he learned very quickly, always keep safe search on. Guys, this has been Convention War Stories. My name's Alkali. This is Greg. Thank you very much. Who knows? Is libation appreciation in here? Or I'm just staying here?
I thought it was already Walt. I thought it was already libation. I was just coming to ask why you wanted to do this instead of get free booze at the pool.
The pool's closed.
Whoa, it was open.
Yes,
I got free booze
booze
at the...
here.
Do you think I normally dress like this? Oh, they're bringing booze.
We were there. We had a giant thing.